TV trash. I've stated before that the 1990s brought forth some of the best cartoons ever, but the transition in the late 80s to the 90s, some of their shows left something to be desired. Mainly, a number of people thought it was a good idea to make cartoon shows, aimed at younger audiences of course, that were based off of movies and other concepts that were definitely not made for kids. This gave us the likes of the RoboCop series, Rambo, The Force of Freedom, and Police Academy. And then there's our subject for today, James Bond Jr., an animated spin-off of Ian Fleming's spy character made famous by the still ongoing series of movies.
He learned the game from his Uncle James. Now he's heir to the name James Bond. James Bond Jr.
The cartoon has risen to some infamy online in recent years, especially after Linkara reviewed an issue of the comic series based off the cartoon, which just retold a story of one of the episodes, so what was even the point there? Clearly, when you're an online critic, you have the risk of reviewing something others have done before, but I've gotten plenty of requests for this, so let's get into James Bond Jr. Of course, we have to start with the name of our title character. Even if this show isn't officially in continuity, and things we'll see later in the show would suggest it isn't, it would still suggest that James Jr. has to be an illegitimate son of Mr. Bond, and we can't have that in a kid's cartoon, right? So, of course, they pulled out one of the most popular cop-outs in animation and made him James's nephew. Which just makes the name even creepier when you think about it. Though I think it's hinted in the opening theme song that the younger James had his name officially changed to honor the elder Bond, so maybe there's that. The first episode naturally starts with Junior in a car chase. Why? Oh, we'll get to that, but we already have plenty of insane to see here, like the pursuing car having a laser under the hood, meaning it's driving without an engine, and then Junior drives his car off a cliff before switching to flight conversion that turns the doors into wings, because flying a vehicle with open doors is the smartest thing to do. In fact, that car chase was so crazy, I'd say they needed different music put to it.
They missed their flight.
Whoa! It's an Aston Martin DB5!
I believe it's the tardy student, Mr. Milbanks.
Ah, yes. Mr.
Bond. James Bond. Jr.
So, Junior arrives at Warfield Academy, which might as well be called School for MI6 Kids, because almost everyone here is apparently related to one of the real James Bond's colleagues.
Horace Boothroyd, actually, but my friends call me IQ. My grandfather, Q, and your uncle, Gordo Lighter, meet James Bond, the latest addition to Warfield's Rogues Gallery.
You know, my dad works with your uncle.
Oh, brother, what a hunk.
I'm James Bond.
You certainly are. I'm Phoebe Farragut.
Delighted, Phoebe.
Not half as much as I am.
Plot coincidence, driving bad cartoon spin-off since the dawn of time. Among those not so related is Tracy Milbanks, the daughter of the school's headmaster. And yes, these two will have that complete Dave and Maddie relationship that was oh so popular to use back then. Or Link and Zelda for those who didn't watch crime comedies in the 80s.
Oh, you're James Bond, father's latest headache.
We also get this snot-nosed punk named Trevor Noseworthy, whose sole purpose is to be an antagonist to James and his friends outside of the actual villains. It's really unusual in that he's like a precursor to Bonnie Rockwaller, minus the charm, but yet, with everything bad that happens to him in the show, you almost understand why he'd have a grudge against Bond.
I'm not interested in young Bond, but the Aston Martin. It contains a top-secret, high-powered electromagnetic pulse generator.
And James gave that car to his nephew to take to boarding school. Yeah, I think all those shaken, not stirred martinis are finally killing brain cells. For that matter, if he wanted the car, why was he glad to see James drive it off the cliff and upset when he saved it by flying off? We're not even through the first act of the pilot, and this show can't keep its continuity straight! This guy is an agent of an organization called Scum, clever, which looks like it was created exclusively for this show. But of course, we need something else connecting to the Bond movies to try and make people care, so in this episode they throw in Jaws, a villain from the movies Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. Because referencing the Roger Moore movies is the best way to make it cool, right, Warren?
It's a shot of like pigeons doing double takes when the gondola blasted by. Moonraker is inexcusable.
Flight conversion isn't working. I think we'd better catch a later flight.
Here we go!
I just talked to your uncle. That pulse generator was never in the Aston Martin at all. Scum, and we, were misinformed.
What? You mean all that was for nothing?
So yes, the adventure of the pilot episode was completely pointless. We're off to a bang-up start! The second episode is the one that was retold in the comic Linkara reviewed, Earthcracker, where Goldfinger somehow survived getting sucked out an airplane window in his movie, and now he and Oddjob, who has gone all pimp daddy, are out to find the lost city of El Dorado and steal its gold. The exact opposite of what he wanted to do with the gold in Fort Knox. And because Goldfinger is perhaps the most famous Bond villain, naturally this isn't his only appearance. In fact, we later meet his daughter, Goldiefinger.
Here is a culmination of many years of work, the Sonic Wave Machine.
I can't say we share the same taste in bracelets, Daddy.
Huh, I guess Bond's suspicions about what was going on between Goldfinger and Pussy Galore were true. And actually, Goldie may be the best thing going in this show. Heck, there's one episode where she creates a clever variation on Daddy's old plot. Trick people into thinking a gold mine has been irradiated so they will stay away and she can then mine it all for herself. To be honest, had they done more spin-off villains like this, the show might have been more of a gas. But sadly, quite a few of the episodes feature the old villains that Junior's uncle faced, whether it makes sense for them to be alive or not. For example, by the 7th episode, we're introduced to Dr. What? What did they do to Dr. No? I just... So yeah, the show had a full daily season produced, which amounted to 65 episodes, and at least 15 of them included at least one of the likes of Goldfinger, Dr. No, Jaws, and Oddjob. Oh, but we still get plenty of original villains for this series, like Baron Von Scharen, Ms. Fortune, and Captain Walker de Planck. It still amazes me how people get paid to write concepts they thought up in their fever dreams. And even if it was the first episode featuring these new villains, they act like they've met before, as if Junior was fighting these crooks like his uncle did even before coming to Warfield. So he heard the stories of his uncle getting dropped into vats of acid and having lasers pointed at his crotch, and somehow decided, yeah, that's the life for me?
I happen to know that every secret agent gets all the broads.
Fair point. Yeah, maybe he did it for the women, because of course, like good old Unc, almost every episode features some new hottie to drool over and save. Along with Lotta Denaro, we get Anna Janu, Dulcie Nada, and Haley Comet. I'd say the producers asked 10-year-olds to come up with these names, but the 10-year-olds prefer the names made after sex parts. So this is just grown men coming up with names they think kids would like, which just makes you want to smack them in the head with a Street Sharks DVD box. So most of the episodes have James in different countries for either the convenience of some school trip, yeah, the school must have a budget as big as MI6, or he just sneaks out upon discovering his latest squeeze is in trouble, and thus Trevor tries to bust him, but the headmaster doesn't believe him, even though he saw what James was capable of back in episode 1. The episodes look suspiciously like an attempt to show geography locations to its viewers while giving them riveting plots like Walker de Planck's attempt to make bootleg toys, or Goldie's lackey Barbella trying to destroy Leo because of her grudge against the Scum Lord. And of course, IQ always has plenty of gadgets that he just gives James to use, even though since he's not a federal employee like the real Q, he could make a fortune off of them. That may be even more puzzling than the old Lex Luthor. I'd love to see Donatello get into a tech contest with this guy. He'd probably destroy this IQ punk.
By programming in a random factor, we're sure to get something new every time. Peanut butter and broccoli popcorn? Well, it is a change.
Maybe not. And it seems like every episode had to end with some of the lamest one-liners you'll ever hear.
Well, Trevor, that wouldn't be the first time someone's made a monkey out of you.
How could you miss such a simple question? Newsworthy.
Yeah, the answer was as plain as the nose on your face.
Yeah, I thought you were the one who said he knows everything.
Don't let it bother you, Trev. We came very close. We just lost by a nose.
I think I just came up with 20 internet comedians who make better puns. 21, and this last one would really show how low this show went. Believe it or not, this thing was so big back in 1991 that it not only got the comic book series, but also got a license to make a video game released for at least the Super NES. And no, I have not actually watched any full Let's Plays or reviews of the game, and don't know what its story is, nor do I care to do so. Because the TV series alone was such a pain to get through that I think Warren Mears would prefer the Roger Moore films over this. The best term I can come up with for this series is watered down. It's exactly what you'd expect, a kidified version of the most famous secret agent ever. The animation is what you would expect from a cartoon series from the 90s that wasn't made by Disney. The characters are even goofier than in the movies, the new designs are ridiculous and unnecessary, and it looks like they tried to use a concept that kids heard about to draw interest while shooing in lessons about geography and the like with really thin plots thrown in. And guess what? one of the multiple companies that produced this thing was Murakami Wolf Swenson, the producers of the first Ninja Turtles series. Which just goes to show that everyone can have a bad mark on their record. If they had tried to go all out and make this a Bond parody, similar to the Austin Powers movies, it might have worked better, but it looks like they were taking this seriously, which is why no one does now. Next thing you know, they'll make a kiddie cartoon version of Maxwell Smart! I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole. See you next time on TV Trash.